Cousins, Diggs, he's going to fumble the football, but he had a big night.
He did. He got open right there, play action, setting it up. He was the man with no feeling, but he got to hang on to the football at the end.
So he's frustrated there, but he would get many, many more chances. Third straight game for at least 140 receiving yards for Stephon Diggs, and he's hanging on to the football here.
Two hands on it, going to make sure he secures the catch. Great timing throw, great route by Stephon Diggs, turns him around. That's a quarterback's best friend on the slant.
Again, they played this game last night against Washington without Adam Thielen, who had a hamstring. So it was Diggs' turn to take over, and indeed he would. Here's a pretty throw up the right sideline.
And Greeny, this is all Diggs won earlier in the season. We're going to throw it 30 times. Just make sure 25 of them are accurate. Kirk Cousins drops it in the bucket, and it makes Diggs a happy camper.
Jonathan Vilma still not satisfied.
No, I agree. I am happily smiling over here. I agree.
Diggs, 7 catches, 143 yards, and the Vikings with a win 19-9. There are no bad wins in the National Football League, and especially when you play in the NFC. Look at our football power index. These are our analytics on the best chance for each individual team to wind up winning the NFC Championship. The Vikings slot in there just slightly ahead of Green Bay. That may be a surprise. But what we wanted to do was show you this to give you an indication of just how spread out it is. And by comparison, yesterday, Hembo, you put up this number that showed us in the AFC, there is actually a better chance, according to our analytics, that the Patriots make it than the field. There it is. The Patriots, a 55% chance to win the AFC. No one better than a 24% chance in the NFC. What it tells you is some good teams are going to get left out.
It's crowded.
Give me a team or two that you think a lot of people have high hopes for, that you think are in real trouble of missing the playoffs in the NFC.
In the NFC, the real trouble will be Philadelphia Eagles, Chicago Bears, even Carolina Panthers. I'm looking at these teams that are really good, could possibly win 9-10 games, and will be left out of the playoffs.
Yeah, it's fascinating. The Rams might be another. Let's talk about those Bears right there, Mark, because Mitch Trubisky has been the focus of a lot of attention this year. Here are the Eagles, who again have a tough game coming up against Buffalo. Which of these teams do you think gets left out? Because this will be a huge disappointment. There are the Rams.
Well, listen, with the Vikings playing this well, I don't know if the Bears can make it. I mean, they had to put Mitch Trubisky back in. And he was banged up, man. That left shoulder wasn't feeling great. He wasn't as accurate as he should have been the other night. And it could be tough
even with that, though, even with Trubisky, he's still the third best quarterback in that division. Actually, fourth best quarterback. I'm forgetting Stafford. So it's not like having Trubisky is the reason why Chicago would make the playoffs.
And so I look at that whole crowded field. I mean, the team that to me is the most impressive, your former team, the New Orleans Saints. How good have they looked? Teddy Bridgewater's been really, really good. Maybe 80% of Drew Brees, but that shows how complete their team is. And they've played the toughest schedule in the NFC. So we have all those numbers up there and everything. Sean Payton has done a masterful job of trying to siphon through a very, very difficult NFC.
The Rams were in the Super Bowl. I don't know if they're going to stick
Bears
the playoffs.
won the division.
And they just made a huge trade for Ramsey, but I don't know if that's going to be enough.
Look, this isn't that complicated. Somehow it all has to add up to 6. That's all the teams that are going to make it from the NFC. Put Dallas in, put New Orleans in, just for the sake of discussion. If they win their divisions, Green Bay, Minnesota, San Francisco, Seattle, you do the rest. All the rest of them are on the outside looking in, and that includes a lot of teams that came into this season thinking Super Bowl thoughts. Now, of course, we're only halfway through, so there's still a lot of time for all of that to change. Another team that came into this season with very high expectations, of course, the Cleveland Browns. They come off their bye taking on New England this Sunday. And shout out to you if you have New England's defense in fantasy. They've allowed 48 points all season, the second fewest through 7 games by any team in the Super Bowl era. A member of that defense, however, is now gone. The team yesterday traded Michael Bennett to the Cowboys. He was suspended for last week's game after he had a disagreement with his position coach, so he's out of there. Not sure how much difference that will make. The Browns, meanwhile, have started the season flat, already posting their 2 worst losses of the last 4 seasons this year, and Baker Mayfield leads the league with 11 interceptions. And so the worst thing that can happen to a young quarterback who's having trouble with turnovers is to run into a Bill Belichick team, especially this defense. Bobby, you have some tape.
Baker Mayfield throws more picks versus man than anyone else. The Patriots play more man than anyone else. And Bill Belichick is going to be the boogeyman once again this week for Baker Mayfield. Let's take a look at it. You see the deep safety here. Baker sees man-to-man coverage. He understands it. He recognizes it. He has the perfect play call, a pick route at the top of the screen to be able to go with the football. He feels the pressure cut, or he sees the pick route, understands, hey, there's going to be an open receiver, but he predetermines his read, chooses the wrong one. He has time, even though there's a blitzing linebacker, chooses to force it to Beckham instead of going to Chubb up top, predetermined his read. Let's look at Sam Darnold. No safety, man-to-man defense. Once again, Greeny, you remember this.
Yeah.
7 pressures, 7 blitzers coming, throwing off the back foot. Sam Darnold, he has enough time. He has an open Le'Veon Bell down the side, but he predetermines throwing the out. Devin McCourty falls off, intercepts the football. There's 6 yards of separation if he just would have thrown it over the top. But Bill Belichick does a great job of confusing young quarterbacks, pressuring them into making bad decisions. And this is why it's going to be a long day at the office for Baker Mayfield.
I have questions for both of you guys. Mark, I'm going to start with you. Once upon a time, you were a young quarterback out there up against Bill Belichick's defenses. So my question is, if you were sort of to write a letter to your younger self or to Baker Mayfield, what would you advise him to do this Sunday?
Keep it very simple, and I would start with Freddie Kitchens. I would go pure progression reads. Reads that don't need me to diagnose a defense first. I know exactly where I'm going with number 1, number 2, number 3. Once you get through those progressions, move on. Get back to the line of scrimmage if you're going to scramble, and get the ball out of your hand, throw it away. It's okay to say uncle this week. Keep it very simple and don't get bored. Also, Freddie Kitchens, I want 10 no-brainer breather plays for the quarterback. What is that? A little bubble screen. Have some tricks up your sleeve. Something easy to get them off to a 3 for 4, 4 for 5 kind of start with 50 yards in the bank. And that's it. And just keep. And then you're going to have to hope that the Patriots don't play well.
This is the longest letter.
But it's a good letter.
Well, I'm just telling you, dude. You're going to have to do so many things right, and they're going to have to screw up some stuff. I'm just telling
Because
you.
this defense, we've talked about it, the numbers are historically good. Through the eyes of a linebacker, how good is this New England defense?
They are tops. When you talk about historically, they're comparable to the 2000 Ravens, 2002 Bucks, and we're talking about taking the ball away. That is the single most important stat. Outside of points per game, single most important stat is taking the ball away. Why? Because offenses have possessions. If it's a possessions game, if you can have the ball more times on offense than your opponent, then you can score more times than your opponent, period. And the Patriots are doing such a phenomenal job. The only thing they're missing right now is that Ray Lewis type of guy, right? Who's that the big star on their team, and you don't really have that.
They don't have stars.
They don't really need it. Now, they have Stephon Gilmore, who probably is the best at his position, but one way or another, that's one of the interesting games on the Sunday NFL schedule. Saturday, we have a great college football game for you. It's a rivalry that dates back to 1887.